Hi, my name is Heather Pierrer. I moved to Orlando maybe about 2.5 years ago, and I was introduced to Mayor Earnest Page. So I consider myself to be a friend and a community member. And my thoughts on what occurred with the incident with Mayor Page and also Senator Siplin, it just brought me to a place in time in history. And the lesson that I got from the powers to be, if I may say so, is that we've just lynched your biggest and your baddest Negroes. Now the rest of you get in line. So there's no denying that. I actually sat in the trial the entire week. It's systematic how the media, everyone is tried in the media. It's not by happenstance, it's not coincidence that what you hear in the media, it actually what transpired in the courtroom were two different things. What I end up hearing in the courtroom with the charges against Mayor Page was bribery and accepting illegal compensation. But when the instructions came down to the jury, it wasn't, did he commit this act? It's like, do you believe he had the opportunity to commit this act? And if you did, then you must find him guilty. So my thing is that it's just, as a young woman, as an African-American woman, as a black woman, you learn our generation, and I think it's a disservice, and I'm retraining the way I'm teaching my daughter, is that we were told that if you do right, you get an education, sort of an assimilation, that you'd be accepted. But what I learned in the last 3 years or 2.5 years of being Orlando is like, there is ultimately no assimilation. We are what these people think we are, and what we are is a bunch of niggas or Negroes, however you want to put it. And if you step out of your place, regardless of your degrees, if you're a doctor, if you're a politician, the powers to be, whoever they may be, will place you in check. So I just think this community needs to wake up. If the state attorney, Lawson Lamar, who's never tried a case, has never in court tried a case, can publicly come out, it's a witch hunt. There are criminals that are walking the streets that have committed crimes that he refuses to, or I don't know the quite incident. I remember there was an incident with this boy, the wheelchair shooting, where he said, you know, there was not enough incidents. And this Duke and LaCrosse case is prime example of our state attorneys and what we allow these people to do in our communities because we fail to have a voice. So this, I know I'm supposed to be talking about Mayor Page, but for me as a parent, as a mother, this is bigger than Earnest Page. This is black people giving away our powers to people who are elected. Lawson Lamar is an elected official. We should have been outraged from the time when he said, was it Mayor Crowdy received funds, voted on the issue, and he said he was not going to even investigate it. So right then and there, I know, again, I'm supposed to be talking about Mayor Page, but my mind just wanders because it's like you cannot allow, it goes down from our school system to our justice system, our criminal system. Lawson Lamar in that state attorney's office, those are the same ones who, this is what I've gotten out of the case. As a parent again, these are the people that we trust to render justice on our children. If they're not afraid to lynch black men, how about our children? How about our boys? How about our girls? This is a state attorney who we entrust, and as taxpayers, there's got to be a point where we have to hold these people accountable. Or if we don't hold them accountable, it's no one's fault but our own fault. We're just in this city, we're just not safe. If you go back to history, you look back into the history books and you see what's happened across this nation, this is not a happenstance. There's no coincidence. Even the politician out of Louisiana with the case with the FBI and the money. One time you heard the money on the television station, I guess was 100,000, went down to 90. It's hush hush. This is all political. My biggest fear is that they're gonna lynch you. They're gonna lynch you anyway. At what point do we as a community stand up and say, look, this is wrong? And my perspective, sitting there in the courtroom and observing the trial, it was ironic how it was never discussed bribe. It was never money. Your normal concept would think, oh, the tape that you allegedly heard in the media, that was all that they had. They had no other evidence. So it never said, oh, Mayor Page, I want you to do something illegally. From my understanding, sitting in the courtroom, this is a project as president of SWAC that Mayor Page was sitting on. So, and to further the point that the city already has a procedure in place to deal with ethics and violations, and they found nothing wrong. So nothing never came up to the city. He didn't vote on anything. No one ever discussed the city doing something illegally. He had every right to participate in the project, or to purchase this building, or to participate this project, and to find out. And the monies that the cities were going to offer, that's that housing, the $20,000-$40,000 that the residents would go to, not the mayor. That first time home buyers program, that's where the money went. Al Pena went there, and not to even discuss that, the judge kept the jury from hearing about Al Pena's past. He even excused some witnesses to testify. So the only money, the issue with Al Pena going to the city was about the home buyers program. Were the residents going to be able to afford this, or was the city going to give them money in a home buyers program? So I meant, as a observer in the courtroom, I never heard bribery nor a crime committed. What you heard was, if you believe that there could have been, then you have to find them guilty. Even in the legal elements, when the elements mean when they discuss what constitutes a crime, bribery, if it's ABC, this is what bribery is. They never discussed that. And then what they did is that they did a word on play, which we're all, as people with intelligence, or especially black people, because this is a black issue, we're used to people playing a play on words. They do these word games with us. So what's in black and white, yeah, this is what it says in black and white. However, you disregard this. If you believe this could have happened, then you have to find him guilty. So I believe that, no, it was purely political. I cannot emphasize that or say that anymore. When you look at Mayor Crotty, Senator Siplin, Mayor Dyer, Mayor Page, everyone went to a grand jury except the two African people. When I say grand jury, what I mean is that the state attorney has a job in which they tell you all the time, when you hear about cops shooting people in the back, they say, we investigate it and we give it to the grand jury. The grand jury has to make a decision whether or not there's enough evidence to take it to court. They didn't do that. In the only two incidents, in Mayor Page and Senator Siplin's case, I know this for a fact, they did not take it to the grand jury. So in essence, what they did is say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead as Lawson Lamar and the state attorney. I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to also indict them, not send it to a grand jury who may or may not. So as black people, again, I'm going to keep emphasizing, we know what your odds are. So maybe they sat and decided that their odds would not have been good of even getting an indictment. So then they decided, let's issue these indictments from the state attorney's office, which they did. And they issued their warrants from the state attorney's office. So I meant, it's belaboring the point, but it is clearly political. I meant, and then with the jury, then when you send a jury, that we all know all media advertising is written on an 8th grade level. So the odds are, let's get a group of people together. And the point may also be, and we go back to the community again, how we as a community, we don't want to sit on these jury panels. So had you sat there and had you heard this, would the outcome of the verdict been different? So they put all their odds together, figure, well, are we going to get a black person on there? Are we going to get a pool? Not even black, educated people, people with common sense, people who can think and people who can see behind. And how many of those jurors had not? They all either had seen it, didn't admit to seeing it, they discussed it. There were people sitting in the grand jury pro when the judge said, and I heard this personally from myself, there was one of the jury members sitting there discussing the case prior to trial. And the judges are well aware of that. But then again, you know, there's no justice. And is there some way to galvanize? I don't know if the community needs to file a complaint. I don't even know if politically, because it's all political, if the political structure is there to get someone to investigate the state attorney's office on prosecutorial malicious prosecution. Clearly is a violation. And we see this case now with Duke. I don't know what is it going to take for the community, but what pushes me and what is my passion is that this Lawson Lamar, this state attorney is who we entrust to render justice to our children when they've clearly said to the African American community, look at what we can do to your supposedly biggest and baddest Negroes, with no regard for the law, the letter of the law. No regard for the letter of the law. There needs to be an outcry. Another process, we can also talk about the judges. How were the judges selected? What were the experience of the judges? How can you have a judge, some of these judges, because they're first appointed by a different political party, sit on a trial? These are all questions. I meant the more you dig into it, I meant there's a plethora of questions that we can ask ourselves. I meant, if I don't know what the saying is, I may be wrong, but if it smells like whatever, that's what it is. But this just does not make sense, and it's sad. And I just say the message that we all have is that, you know, we're telling our children, if you do right, if you go to school, you're educated. These are well-educated men. You don't just wake up one night and say, I'm going to be a criminal. I don't know much about Mayor Page, but I know he went to Morehouse. He has a college degree. He's well-educated, articulate. And they can sit by and treat him or act as though he's a common criminal. Because then you always have a black man always guilty. So I just urge the community just to start to think, just to change the way you think. Become a little bit more politically involved, and maybe also state attorney. I mean, Los Lamar is up for election in 2008. What are we going to say? Who's going to run? Who's competent enough? Where do these people stand on issues? How have they voted in the past? How do their beliefs relate? I meant someone really needs to investigate Los Lamar. How deep does he run in the South? Because so often we hear about the South. Orlando is the South that we read about in civics, that we read about lynching. Ocoee, right there, where there was a lynching mob. Orlando, the residents of Orlando, we are in the midst of what we read in history.